I don't like using it because it causes, especially for somebody I might disagree with.
I like using it. I got no problem with it, even though it pisses people off. That's what makes it more fun.
well, let's use DEI then. Fine. It's my belief, right, that these types of demographic goals, if that's your basis for setting a target, that is incompatible with pure meritocracy. Where
absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's where I know you disagree, right? So give me your view.
That's Vivek Ramaswamy schooling billionaire and useful idiot Mark Cuban on the backwards logic of woke DEI initiatives. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and I'm going to apologize in advance if you're a fan of Shark Tank and like Mark Cuban, because not only does he have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, but he's also a huge Kamala Harris fan and has bought into every dumb progressive talking point pushed by the left.
Targets are one thing, right? They're not a quota. If it was a quota, you would be able to, let me take a step back. There are these things called EEOC reports, the numbers for those vice president positions by male, female, white, black, Asian, other races, and biracial. And where you want to have a better portfolio outcome for your intellectual capital, there's certain things that you want to see happen. One of them is diversity.
I think it causes us to be more divided when we see each other on the basis of our skin.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. Okay, so it's saying, look, there's a lot of women, black, Asian, whatever it may be, people that I think are not being recruited. That there are a lot of people who may not have the best test scores from the best school, but they may have a lot of soft skills from their experiences. I'm going to go and find the best possible candidates that I can. And they're going to compete with everybody else. I'm going to say this person, this woman, African-American woman who was from this small school that I've never recruited at, she's brilliant. And when I compare her to other people that I might hire, she's better. Now, this other person, African-American, another small school I typically don't recruit at, they may not be good enough. I'm not going to hire them just because they're black from a small school that nobody else recruited at. They have to qualify. So then when I hired this African-American woman from this small school, because she has amazing soft skills, maybe not the best test scores, that's where equity comes in.
Look at Vivek's face while Mark is talking. It's like he can't believe what he's hearing. And keep in mind, this isn't the first time Cuban has puked out some sort of incoherent, contradictory word salad response about this sort of stuff. He's famously gotten in debates on social media with people like Elon Musk over this, and you can tell from what he said earlier that he really seems to enjoy trolling people and getting attention from pushing this sort of nonsense. Because frankly, it doesn't affect him. He got rich and made a name for himself before any of this stuff really went into effect, so it probably really doesn't hurt him the way it would a CEO of a small or medium-sized company.
Equity means putting people in a position to succeed, giving them the tools that they need. So she might have soft skills I invested in this company called Scoutable. And they'll look for similarities. They'll do a statistical analysis and they'll say, look, this person who we found in the middle of nowhere doesn't have a computer science degree, but the soft skills that they have matches up perfectly to our best programmers. Okay. So we're going to take a chance on that person. And the equity is we're going to give them extra computer training because we know based off of the data that we're using, they're very capable in ways other people aren't going to find the diversity. And we're going to give them the tools to put them in a position to succeed. Whether or not they will succeed is up to the ability of us to train that person and up to their ability to live up to what we expect from them. If they don't, they'll get a chance or two like every other employee. They'll get, a report from HR saying, here's what you got to do if you're not doing well. And you still have to compete and you still have to do well.
Now notice how he said DEI doesn't have anything to do with race, but exclusively chose to focus on black women in his example, who just happen to be the victim du jour of the left. I mean, his argument for advocating for these requirements is that it's somehow beneficial for companies to hire a bunch of DEI compliance administrators who then seek candidates based on certain criteria and administer tests to assess their soft skills so that they can then provide funding for professional development to bring them to a desired skill level, all in the hope that the new hire can cut it as an employee. And if they can't, you're supposed to just fire them and throw away all that time, effort, and money you spent in exchange for the HR headache of terminating an employee who ranks high on the left's victim hierarchy.
Different types of businesses need different types of diversity. That's the whole thing.
Of course.
So how could it be that every business sets the same quota or same target based on race or gender, when in fact every business should say we need this type of diversity, people who have experience in the humanities or math.
They do.
And they already do by focusing on return on equity instead of focusing on actual D, capital D diversity.
They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand, because that CEO, if they can't hit their equity goals, right, their ROE goals, they're getting fired. Right, they're gone.
So that's what it comes down to. The ROE goals, the return on equity goal, which means there's a million factors you got to cover. Why do you want one blanket category of diversity?
It's not one blanket strategy. No CEO would have a clue.
Because it's
it doesn't.
It's the same.
You're hoping
race
it
and
does.
gender. Race and gender is what it always comes down to, or sexuality now too. So NASDAQ, in making some of the arguments you have, says they want companies to report the diversity of their boards of race, gender, and sexual orientation. So they get some suggestions. They say, hey, you're asking companies to report their diversity on race, gender, and sexual orientation. How about we add a couple of other metrics to the list? Veteran status, disability status. I don't remember if they said political beliefs or not, but veteran status and disability status are on there, and supposed political beliefs are also on the list. Here's what NASDAQ came back and said. Okay, after careful review, we have determined that the addition of more indices of diversity have the result of reducing the desired forms of diversity.
So to wrap up, Cuban said that DEI isn't a quota and isn't about race, gender, or sexuality, but CEOs who don't meet their equity goals will be fired, and the NASDAQ, who requires this sort of stuff to be listed publicly, rejected additional criteria that wasn't directly applicable to race, gender, or sexuality. Call me crazy, but this is starting to sound an awful lot like college admissions to me, where you can have abysmal test scores, no extracurricular activities, but still make the cut because of superficial traits like skin color and a woke essay that was deemed useful to assess your soft skills. It's no wonder why people are starting to push back on this. But let me know what you think.